Robert from Sweden. Hi, how can we help you this week? Hi, Robert. Can you hear us? Oh no.
I'm looking forward to the Swedish call because we were just like talking about Swedish love for different Swedish metal bands, and I thought this was just poetic. But
I know, I was like,
we got it. The Swedish gods have given us light.
Hi, Robert. How can we help you?
Hi. Yeah, I want to talk about false religion.
False religion.
Most of you guys are false. Most of you guys have a Christian background, right?
I do. Yeah. I do not.
I do.
Okay. And the reason why
we're breaking up, Robert.
We've lost you there, Robert. Oh no.
Well, hopefully when he can come back. I want to add a point, and then in time when we can get him on.
Okay, well we can switch over to someone else and come back to Robert, perhaps. Let's do that.
Sure. Okay. So maybe we can get him back on. The forced religion thing kind of puts me in a weird spot because I'm an example of somebody that didn't have that. So I was curious on where his line of reasoning would go. But
I think he said false religion, as in.
Oh, I thought he said forced. Like
I thought that first too. But
false religion. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry, you're back, Robert. Okay, go for it. Try and get your point in before it cuts out.
Yeah. Can we agree that all religion is really about life after death?
No.
I don't know if that's true.
It's not. It's also about prescribing norms. Like it deals with normativity and how
traditions and rituals.
One ought to behave in virtue of the God existing, right? Like I ought. There's certain things that I ought to do. I ought to accept Jesus into my heart. Things that's not just predicated on what happens when I die. Might have to do with that, but there's other components to that.
And also, it's often an attempt to explain things. Often big questions like where does the universe come from, but also all kinds of other things. I mean, there's the classic phrase "God of the gaps," which is pointing out that someone's trying to explain something they don't understand by saying, "Oh, it's gods have created that." So I think religion serves lots of different roles, not just explaining life after death. However, I do agree that quite a lot of people are anxious about what happens after death, and that might be a strong motivation for people to get into religions.
Yeah, but it's a big question in all religions.
It's a big question, but I couldn't say for sure whether it was all religions because I only know about a handful of religions well enough.
I mean, if you're making the claim that majority of religions do that, sure, by like that's. But to say it's the sole reason or something, if I heard you correctly at the beginning, then I would disagree.
But if we stick to the Christian religion, that is a big question. That's a big foundation in the Christian faith. It's a life after death. But
it's also sorry to cut you off, but it's also and I think most Christians might agree that for them it's going to be saying living like Christ as well on earth, right? So it's actually talking about specifically about how you act on earth, not just after that. I'm sorry, I know I'm playing like devil's advocate in the sense there's parts that I might not agree with. I might be a little too pedantic though.
Yeah, I understand that. But what if the Bible doesn't say that there is a life after death?
Well, I guess that there will be some people who are like Bible literalists, and if the Bible doesn't mention life after death, then that will just have to be something they don't believe, or they don't have any reason to believe. But I think religion is more, certainly Christianity for most people is more than just what it literally says in the Bible. So I mean, people believe all kinds of stuff that's just tradition, like about the devil and about gay marriage and all this kind of stuff. So
yeah.
So what's your argument? Where are you going with this line of reasoning?
Yes, where I'm going with this. The truth is that the Bible says that after death there is nothing. There is no life after death. In Ecclesiastes 9:5 it says, "For the living know that they will die, but the dead."
or no?
So the only thing that Robert, and I do want to jump in there anyway. So sorry, I would have interrupted you. But so I don't really care about the 1,000 ways people can interpret the text to say that it doesn't say that. There are someone that will look at that exact verse and claim that it actually in some way shows that there is life after death. So talking about how we interpret the words of other people, I don't see the value in that, because there's already Christians that are denying, like, that will say Adam and Eve didn't exist. I'm someone that says if you think Adam and Eve didn't exist, then there's no original sin and no reason for Jesus to die on the cross, thus, in my opinion, disproving Christianity from a very basic kind of sense. But someone could come along and just say, no, well, Adam and Eve are figurative, or they did exist in some other way. Like, they could do this all day, but we just I feel like we waste time talking about the what ifs on interpretation rather than what is the actual, like, evidence that we should believe the claims at all.
Yeah, I mean, we could find someone who believes any, sort of set of claims, really. But I guess the point is, what do you believe, and where are you going with this argument? Because if you're going to say, like, I'm a Christian because I don't think there's an afterlife, and the Bible says that, or something, like, if you're trying to make some argument here, then that's interesting. But if we're just saying that some people believe in an afterlife and claim to be Christian when the Bible doesn't say it, like, okay, I don't really believe in Christianity or the Bible or the afterlife anyway. So
yeah, and you're taking like it's already a claim and then adding interpretation to the claim, right? So like we're not talking about something independent. When I talk about like allele frequencies changing over time, I'm not just like looking at a biology book and saying that's the case. We actually observe this, right? And this has an independent attestation for that claim. So if we just get bogged on, well, what does the claim mean, as opposed to worrying about what's the evidence for the claim, we've already fucked up.
But I mean, this question is something that all human wants to know about. What happens after, when we die? That's a question that everybody wants to know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess most people at one point in their life might have considered it, but like, I mean, what? Okay, if I accept that premise, where do we go from there?
Yeah, and the Bible clearly says that there is no life after death.
Okay.
I have several.
According to you,
according
to
the Bible.
Would you agree Robert? Would you agree that it's contestable, that someone can come up and say that a Christian can come up to you and an atheist or someone else can come up to you, even if we all agreed that is still contestable? You would agree, right?
Sure.
Okay, then you just defeated the entire point you called in to make, just to admit that it's contestable. So
I think that, like, this is a classic, like, Christian thing to do. I mean, no offense, is to say, no, this isn't my interpretation. This is what the Bible says. But that's kind of the whole point, is that is what an interpretation is. It's you reading a bit of the Bible and saying, oh, this is what it means. Because I absolutely know personally Christians who definitely think that the Bible says there's an afterlife. And they'll say, no, it says it in the Bible. So, like, you two will disagree, and you can say, oh, well, it says this in the Bible, it says this in the Bible. That's what that's what interpretation is, isn't it?
Yeah, and to remove that, I'm curious how you reconcile it with the fact that, like, accepting Jesus gives you everlasting life. So I guess it's like, I don't understand that point now.
Well, the point is that the Bible says that there is no afterlife.
Okay, so we can shave off Robert, I'm going to interrupt you, because now we can just shave off Jesus giving us everlasting life. What does that even mean in virtue of not having life after death? I don't even understand the central thesis of Christianity anymore.
Well, the plan that God has was, when he created Adam and Eve, it was that they should live here forever on earth. That was the entire plan for him.
And then God messed it up.
But they messed it up, yeah.
And God messed it up.
If you remember what it says in Genesis, where Eve
was
said,
that the part where the snake talked to the humans part?
The thing is, though, even we can argue about who caused the mess up, but God created the concept of death. So when God, that's God's invention, yeah.
well, it's a consequence.
Yeah, but it's a consequence that God made. Like, he invented the concept of life, and he invented the concept of death. And the concept of death was already around anyway, because all the animals were dying, because Adam and Eve were eating them.
Yeah.
So he already come up with death, and then he's like, right, we're going to kill you off, and then I'm going to create myself as my only son, to give you everlasting life, but also I'm going to write in my book saying that after you die, nothing happens, because of some mistake that I set up to happen 6,000 years ago. But, I'm not.
Yeah, but what would happen if Eve didn't eat that fruit?
Yeah, that's not answering the question. What Katie's trying to point out. So like, it would be like me being a developer, right? And I develop some AI. I'm the cosmic programmer of the universe, and I develop some AI, 2 AIs, right? And I arm one of them with like the flamethrower 9000. We call it the faith thrower 9000, right? And I'm like, don't burn down my house. Don't do it. I don't want you to burn down my house. But I arm it with the exact programming, and I wire every antecedent. By antecedent, I mean things that come before it, right? Every antecedent thing that I create, right, will directly determine the outcome that happens, which is that the AI created now burns down my house with the faith thrower 9000 or flamethrower 9000, right? Now I'm going to say it's its fault when I was the one that could have set the conditions any other way. It was not playing. It was not serving tennis. I was serving the ball to it. It has to wait, right? It can't do anything for it to make a judgment in this. So then, not even that, I send myself as a robot and die for the sake of the AI that I programmed. Like, the whole thing doesn't make any sense. And you're not addressing Katie's point. At the beginning, you're just going into a second point. So I don't know if you want to address the actual point that was mentioned or not.
I don't really know what your point was, really.
Well, I guess if we step back and go to the original claim, you're coming in and saying the Bible says there's no life after death. And then I would say, well, I don't really care what the Bible says, because I don't think what the Bible says is true. And I guess that's as far as the idea is sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that when you say the Bible isn't true, then I would say that you don't know the Bible. Have you?
Yeah, but that's what people say about their holy text all the time.
Yeah,
but I'm not convinced.
It's the truth. If you want to know what the Bible really says, then you must study the Bible, not just read it. You can read.
Yeah, but that's just all your claim is, Robert, is that within my phenomenological experience, the way that I see the world, the way that I interpret everything dealing with how you interpret something, right? That comes down to it filtering through your sense data. And you just say, well, my sense datum has actually interpreted the correct interpretation of the Bible. And you're just saying, you just beg the question by saying, well, you have to read it the right way. Yeah, but if it's just the way in virtue of how you have interpreted it and then tried to say that we have to interpret that way, you're just begging the question on how you had the right interpretation. But we all are in the same boat. This is why presuppositionalists don't get off the floor, is because they are saying that it's been revealed to them, but they have to rely on their sense data. They could be being tricked. It could be an alien. It could be we could be in a matrix, right? They haven't solved external world skepticism. So I don't know how you say you have the right interpretation when it ultimately comes down to how you interpret it, because you don't have the evidence.
There's some bits of the Bible that there's just no good interpretation for. It's just like unquestionably immoral. And so that's why I just think it's rubbish.
I don't agree with you at all.
I think you probably do.
No.
I don't want to do the classic ACA Exodus 21:12 thing, but there's quite a few bits in the Bible which are quite plainly immoral, like promoting rape or murder or genocide, or God does some grim stuff. So I just well, I'm not interested in this. It's rubbish. And then when you say, oh, well, I've got evidence there's no afterlife because it says it in the Bible, I'll say, well, I think there's probably no afterlife, but I don't know for sure, and I don't think the Bible is evidence either way.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming down to a position that a book says a thing, and therefore I'm epistemically justified in thinking that there is no afterlife or is. You don't actually have your head resting upon anything independent, right? You just have your head resting upon an interpretation of what you think a book says, and not even just what the book says, your interpretation of said book, right? That you've already agreed to me that is contestable. Right. So now you don't have a real account, because you now went back on your statement earlier to say that what you're saying is the right interpretation is contestable. So I don't understand. It feels like we're going all over the place.
I'm sorry, but I think I didn't understand the contestable, what it means.
The interpretation of the verse at which you gave to me, which you cited to me for your interpretation to state that proves that there is no afterlife, right? That is contestable, right? Mm-hmm. You would agree that I could interpret that a different way, correct?
How could you? How could you interpret it in another way?
Because I'm not you, and my sense datum might interpret it different than yours. That's the whole issue that I brought up.
I think we can just say that most Christians have interpreted the Bible to say that there is an afterlife. Or it's certainly most Christians I've ever interacted with think that. So lots of them manage to somehow.
Nor that even if I grant the point that it's not contestable, reading something or saying that a book says a thing is not evidence for the thing. That's great. I'm not trying to be rude, but it's a grade school level of believing things. Like just the fact that something said it is not evidence for it. I mean, if that's the case, if someone committed a murder, they just have to write down a journal entry that can't be interpreted any other way. It says, I didn't do it. And for you, under your epistemology, you would accept that as evidence.
Only if it's in the Bible.
I don't agree at all what you say.
Well, I would track with the words I'm saying and listen back over the call, because I feel like I've been pretty concise on the fact that you look at something that the book says a thing, right? I'll make this very easy. A book says a thing. You interpret that as X, right? And that's enough for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, maybe like, so Jmike's, his point was, oh, you could write down anything in any old book and you'd just believe it. And you might think, well, that's not true, because that's just any old book. But the point is that you've decided that the Bible is a good book to believe, and this book that Jmike's written, I Didn't Murder That Person, in, isn't a good book. But like, why? What's the difference between these two books? Why is the Bible the one that you're like, this is true, when it's got, I mean, even if it had all good stuff in it, that doesn't necessarily mean like it's the ultimate truth, and it has a lot of crap in there too. So, I mean, why the Bible? Why not another holy text, or like Jmike's diary where he says, I didn't murder someone every week?
Well, it comes down really to what the Bible is about.
There's lots of holy texts about what the Bible is about.
Robert, I'm going to use the exact same thing that you just gave to me, and I want you to tell me if this remotely sounds like this is a good foundation to stand upon. Well, it just matters about what I've meant when I wrote the statement that I didn't murder somebody, or just meant, what if anybody used that for their claim? Would you accept it?
No.
Then why do you accept it for this one thing? Why are you obviously special pleading? There's a name for this fallacy.
Because it goes down really to how I've studied the Bible. I studied the Bible for many years. I got a whole picture of what the Bible is about. It's like building a puzzle. Small little pieces, then you can see the whole picture. It's given an answer to what the point of living is, why there's so much suffering, and what happens.
But there's loads of books do that. Loads of books do that. Why have you picked the Bible? Why have you picked the Bible over the Quran?
Sorry? The Quran?
Why have you? Yeah. Why not that one? Because there's loads of books that explain stuff and promote slavery.
But if you found the truth, why are you looking for anything else?
Well, that's what a Muslim would say to me.
Yeah,
They'd be like, why would I read the Bible when I've got the Quran?
That's just begging the question. And Robert, when you gave your answers, everything you said had to do with the exact point that I said earlier in the call, which I hope you actually go back and listen, where it's filtered through the way you interpret it, right? You went and said that you studying it, or you coming to this I would say truth, we could put in quotes, right? is based upon your interpretation of that. But what is independent, right? What is beyond you, whether you existed or didn't exist, right? When I believe things, Jmike doesn't matter if Jmike exists in virtue of the things I typically believe in, right? Like there's an independent reason for why I believe in evolution, right? It's not just because a book said it. It's not because I interpreted a book a certain way. There's independent attestation for that claim. I don't have to even look at the book. And if I told someone, hey, just read this book and you'll believe in evolution, I would say that would be epistemically irresponsible of me to do, because I would just show them the evidence. What you've done the whole time is just shown, hey, I've had to rely on my own interpretation. I actually don't have independent evidence. I just have to, it matters about how we interpret it. That's very, very sloppy, extremely sloppy. Because if you had something that which you could provide a good reason, it'd be independent from the fact of how you feel about it or how you interpreted something. Would you not agree?
Well, not really, because the Bible interpreted itself. It's just clear text.
The Bible doesn't interpret itself. Books can't read.
It does. No, it does.
You interpret books.
So you know the original languages and dead languages it was translated from in order for you to actually know that you have the correct interpretation. To me, that sounds like just a very heightened level of hubris that I'm not even really willing to like entertain the call much further.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we're kind of moving around in circles a little bit here, and we're getting down. I feel as we're about to go down this "can you read ancient Greek" line, and perhaps we've spread around different arguments enough here. Perhaps, like Mike says, it would be good it'd be good to go back and listen to this call and consider which arguments we've made, and then maybe you could call in next week and have a discussion where you like address some of those points.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for your call, Robert. We do appreciate it. But yeah, I think it'd be good to address some of the arguments that we made. But anyway,
we'll just provide something independent from the way you feel about it. I'll make it that simple as a challenge. Something independent from the way you feel about an interpretation of a book says a thing. Give me the actual evidence.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Robert. We will talk to you another time.